Hello and welcome to the first off-season episode of Biters. We are starting our retrospective tonight. This is Diane.
And this is your zombified 30-something Brian.
And I feel like I have to say I am calling in from the ice capital of the world. So any zombies that are here, any biters out in the ice, they're frozen solid to the ground right now, so we're pretty safe.
Awesome. Yeah, so being in Alaska, probably pretty cold right now. You got a lot of ice. That's
So
got to be
it's
pretty neat.
It's pretty interesting, actually. We have like zero snow and solid ice. And there was an article in this morning's newspaper about pretty much kissing an Arctic winter goodbye, which has most of the mushers in my community up in arms. So,
Well, here in the lovely cornfields of Iowa, we had 2 inches of snow, and that's about it. And I've had enough, and I'm ready for 70 degrees. Let's do it.
all right. So here's the sad thing. You have more snow than we have.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So tonight we are going to talk about season 1, episode 1. We're starting our season 1 retrospective. So we're talking about the pilot.
Yeah, so just right off the cuff here, I really didn't have anything planned in my head. I wasn't expecting you to call on me, but the one thing that I absolutely loved about the pilot is that it was just a straight sucker punch in your face.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So I'll tell you, I wasn't even a Walking Dead fan. I wasn't reading the book. I didn't know. This is total heresy here, I know, but I didn't know that the series had come out. My brother-in-law sent me the first 6 episodes and said, "You got to watch these." And from the cold open of the pilot, I was completely hooked.
So yeah, mine was a little similar. So I'm not gonna get all on you for not knowing it was released because I remember seeing that it was coming out, and I'm just like, this is gonna be so stupid. AMC is terrible. All they show is westerns because back then in 2010, AMC was still showing westerns because it was American movie classics. That's
Right.
what
And
AMC stood for.
and pretty much their claim to fame at that point was Breaking Bad, right?
Right. Breaking Bad had just started. I mean, it was.
Which
I'm
was
like,
wicked good.
yeah, which
But
was wicked good, but I didn't even give that a chance. Which I caught up on The Walking Dead on the final season when it was actually out there, just because I was
you
set in
mean
my
Breaking
ways.
Bad?
Yeah, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
did the same thing.
So when The Walking Dead came out, I'm just like, this is going to be stupid, whatever. And then when the series was, or it was before the 6th episode, they showed a marathon.
Ah.
And I believe it was a bad snow day, and I called into work, so I didn't feel like driving, and I'm just like, I'm just going to give it a good one go, because my wife hates horror movies. She'll have nightmares. She'll see them forever. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to give this a what the heck, and let's watch this. And then after the first 15 minutes, I'm like, what the hell have I been doing? Why have I not been watching this? So then ever since then, I've watched it, every single thing from there on out.
I am right there with you. That's exactly. I mean, I even suffered through the first season of Fear because I have faith that it's going to get better. So I am right there with you.
No, so what do you have on tap here? Well, let's talk about our show format during our rebirth, our off-season content, and kind of the second half of the season.
So we were talking about for the remainder of the off season, we'll do episodes 1 through 6 of the first season. And I'm thinking that should take us right up to the second half of season 6. I know that there are a couple of interesting interviews out there that we're kind of looking as floating as one-offs, so people really need to pay attention to their feed and to the Facebook page for that. And then we still want people to write in and tell us what their favorite episodes from seasons 2 through 5 were, to give us a chance to talk about some episodes that you and I didn't cover together.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great opportunity for our listeners and everybody out there in the Facebook world, the Twitterverse, email. Get a hold of us. Let us know. We want to have a great interaction with you guys. We want to really absorb your opinions. And that's the great thing about podcasting and following a TV show is everything is opinion based here. Whether we love it, we hate it, what we want to see, what we don't want to see, that's really coming down to you because you're the listener, and this show is ultimately for you. So let us know what you think, whether it's on Facebook or via email. Bring us all together, and let's have a great discussion here and close out the rest of this season.
And, just to be fair and full disclosure to the fans, right? I mean, we talked about this a little bit before we started tonight. One of the things that kept me listening as a fan and has kept me listening to other podcasts is that it's kind of cool to hear your opinions or your name or, your contribution to the conversation get mentioned. And we definitely want to keep that going with our fans. So write in, biters@gmail.com. You can also write to Southgate Media. Give us an interview or give us a review on iTunes. That'd be awesome. And I am definitely really accessible via Facebook, and I know that Brian is too. So I still got to work on my Twitter skills.
Yeah, Twitter's a little tricky. I've got way more things to say than 144 characters. So let's jump right into this episode here. So, the thing that I look back on now for the pilot is the title, Days Gone By. And I just absolutely love those three words. For me, that is the best show title ever that they have had through all of this. Is Days Gone By is my favorite title for any episode.
Well, it encompasses so much. I mean, it really speaks about what is lost to all of our characters. It's a reference immediately to the comic book because it's the first the title of the first compendium or the first collection.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I really think that it's so nostalgic and it just really kind of makes you ache for what everybody's lost.
Yeah, I think it does a really good job of putting you in your place as a viewer. We often think and look and wonder and, I do this or that. But I remember watching this and there was no thought process behind me watching this very first episode.
That's funny that you say that because I was thinking, I just in terms of some of the things that we're going to trot out tonight in terms of criticism or analysis, I was not a very critical watcher, especially for the first season because it was just so new and so amazing.
Yeah, it was like that for me. It was just kind of absorbing this unique vision on what a TV program can be.
Yeah.
And helping redefine a network and really just putting it in its place and getting it out there. And to me, it was just so amazing. And I relate that all down to its title of Days Gone By. It really put me in my place and made me understand the time and the feeling of the universe that this sets in.
Right. And not to be a total geek. I know I've said it before, but I also think it harkens back to that golden age of television and it really brings up the idea that we are living in that second golden age of television. I really believe that we are.
No, I definitely agree. The one thing that really made me love this series is that, yes, it was something you could pop in and out of, watch it, and take it for what it is. But it's also one of the very few series that are out there now that have these long plays in their storyline. There are things as we go through that happen in season 1 that take 5 seasons to play out. If you think of the long-term arching goal of this, they wrote these episodes with some intentional loose ends to show up second season, third season, and into fourth, and even fifth.
And I don't know about you, but I've still got friends who haven't seen it. So I'm hoping that they're going to take this as an opportunity to watch it and start listening to our podcast. But the other thing is, I've still got friends who are convinced it's, quote, just a zombie show, unquote. And I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. There's so much more going on in this world than just the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, and that's proven wrong by the longevity of the season
Absolutely.
of the
Of the
series.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also hard for me to digest, and I don't know if you had this experience as well, that the first season was only 6 episodes
Yeah,
because
it
it
just
just seems so huge, you know?
going back and looking at it, it just says, wow, they crammed so much
They did.
into it. But I understand. So, we're kind of prefacing what we're going to be talking about here in a couple of minutes. But,
Right.
they had to get all this stuff in there. They had to get it all in to hook viewers so it could get a second season.
Well, and
Because,
I've heard several times, and I don't know if this is where you're headed, but that they actually were never really even sure that the first season would see the light of day. So they were really trying to get the whole story, or as much of the story as they could, out there.
you bet. And that happens a lot. And, you think about the process and, how many TV stations whiffed on this before AMC picked it up. Because you can't tell me AMC was the first shopping place for this.
Man, do you think those other execs are just kicking themselves?
Those are the same executives that denied George Lucas an opportunity. How many
Yeah, you're
production
right.
studios passed on Star Wars?
Right.
And he had to scrap together, calling personal loans to get the money to make it. And that's why he alone controlled a $2.4 billion enterprise.
Okay, and no Force Awakens spoilers. We're gonna go see it
Nope.
tomorrow. So
Oh man, I love it. All right, so
finally,
let's kick this off here. So,
all right.
one of our new deals this year is we're keeping the good, bad, and the ugly format, but we're gonna put a 2016 spin on it, if you will.
There you
Since
go.
since it's a new year, we're gonna do a new spin, and it's gonna be epic, fail, and epic fail. So we're gonna have the 3 key points, but it's just gonna be epic, fail, and then epic fail.
And then what we're really thinking is we'll just kind of have some open conversation, kind of, as you said, water cooler conversation, if you will, after we look at those 3 key points.
Absolutely. So let's
So,
kick this off. And what do you got for us on the epic?
well, so, we're still going to keep, I'm going to jump us back a little bit. We're still going to keep some of the stuff that we both really enjoyed. I mean, I enjoyed Biters, period, and I know you did too, but we'll keep looking at the writer and the director. We'll keep the numbers. So I've just got a couple of really short things about those. So Frank Darabont both wrote and directed the pilot. Um, I feel like I missed out on the whole Frank Darabont drama, and I don't know that we're really going to touch on that during this retrospective. I might look more deeply into it. But I think the thing that's important about Frank Darabont is he brought a lot of the original cast in with him. The guy who played Dale, Jeffrey DeMunn, the gal who played Andrea, those are people that had worked with him before and who basically were like, if Frank says it's great, I'm in. So he really brought us a lot of the original cast, and I think that he deserves credit for that. Um, do you have anything to add about Frank?
Well, yeah, the whole drama thing, I think there's way more than anybody will ever know. So for those of you
Yeah.
who don't know who are like, what are you guys talking about? Basically, Frank got railroaded out of the program. They say it was creative differences and blah, 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 blah. We all know that's total BS. And there was some bad things happening somewhere, and somebody got caught doing something.
And creative differences is lingo for really anything. So you're right, it could be anything. The unfortunate thing is I think that Frank's departure ultimately sealed at least the fate of one character, and we can talk about that a little bit more as we go on
Sure.
into the retrospective. But, there were definitely some actors who came with him who said, if Frank's not there, I'm not there,
Yep, absolutely.
which is kind of unfortunate. But so that was basically writer and director in a very brief nutshell. And then I just want to remind people that this pilot did set a record. So it had 5.35 million viewers in the US. That was the most ever for a pilot on AMC, even including Breaking Bad, which as we just said was already playing by this point. So, it's pretty impressive numbers overall for a pilot. And then when you think that we're now looking 6 seasons in at a show that pretty routinely has 3 times that for
Sure.
viewership, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely think the reason The Walking Dead was able to exist and be successful is that it did have strong source material
I
already laid
agree.
down. And I
Yeah.
think that's ultimately what allowed this TV series to A, get produced, but to also kind of haul in the numbers it did. It already had some credibility, you know,
Really
exec
strong fan
studio.
base. Yeah.
Yeah, that was already there. So I think that really definitely helped it out. But still, nonetheless, on AMC, groundbreaking.
So, we might as well go ahead and go with Epic.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start?
Well, for me, one of my big epics was just seeing what the world had become.
Oh, yeah.
As
Okay.
he is kind of just making his way through the town, and he's um going to Atlanta. He's really going down this place, and he kind of has his interactions with Morgan and Dwayne, and he kind of does that, but ultimately it's really kind of trotting in on the horse through Atlanta and just seeing what a wasteland it had become. And to see that kind of unfold with this nice Rick Grimes who's clean shaven and
Right. It's totally
looks,
different.
you know, he doesn't look aged. He looks very well rested because he was in a coma. It's
Right.
all these things were happening, and to me that was the epic. That's what really sold me on this show, was just seeing this open vastness of death. And you start this and it's just like there is literally no hope for this guy. That's my epic, and it really tied me in emotionally to what this was.
I would have to agree with that, and I would say that when I think about Epic in terms of this episode, it's both big and small. I mean, there's part of me that wants to say Epic is the whole thing because it was just so incredible and, like I said earlier, just so different from anything I'd ever seen before. But then, when I think about the things that really define this episode for me, I've got to tell you, the cold open is my epic for this. I mean, just seeing him walk along with that gas can and then the shuffling feet of the little girl in the bunny slippers and him saying, little girl, and then just wham. I mean, you never see what happened to that zombie happen to a kid on television. You just don't. I mean, that
Sure.
is such a profound scene watching that kid take a bullet to the head and go flying back. It's just I was hooked. I was completely hooked by that scene. So that's really epic for me.
Yeah,
And
I
go ahead.
definitely agree. That was even that is something you won't see now. That was in 2010. You definitely won't see that in a 2015 or 2016 setting where the child gets shot like that just because of current events, what really happens in the world.
Yeah, good
You know,
point.
those things kind of mold what is able to be put on the air, or whether it's appropriate at those given times. If you remember back, I think it was season 3 and 4 when the shootings out in the Northeast. What was the school?
Was the Virginia Tech shootings?
Nope, it was the kid who shot up the elementary school.
Oh, the
I
Newtown
can't remember.
shooting.
Yes, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
The
you definitely
Walking
wouldn't
Dead.
see
Well,
episode one.
if you remember, The Walking Dead for about 2 weeks ran disclaimers where Dale, or not Dale, Daryl, um, he was there in character talking about, the things you see on television are actors and it's not
No.
real. Yeah, if you remember that,
Oh. See, I
it's,
didn't see those. I wasn't watching those live
oh,
at that
sure.
point. So,
Yeah, so they had those kind of, after every commercial break leading back into the
wow.
series, he was there talking about violence and guns and stuff like that, and then the show would start after everything.
And I think you're right. I mean, I think it's very interesting and important to put it in the context of the time, you know?
Yeah,
And I think I had not thought about that cold open in that context, but you're right. I don't know that they could get away with it now, especially as things continue to get more grim on our planet instead of better.
sure.
So,
So, what is your fail?
it was hard for me. Well, it was and it wasn't. So there was so much that was awesome about this pilot that it was difficult for me to find a fail. But I will have to say the one thing that sticks out and that has always stuck out for me is the appearance of the couple that had done the murder suicide on the farm.
Yes.
I just thought that in the midst of some really fantastic special effects and makeup, that really stuck out as not being good special effects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by no means am I an expert in the appearance of bodies after they've been exposed or after they've been stuck in a sealed room for days or weeks, but they just didn't seem like great special effects as compared to the other special effects. So every time I watch the pilot, and believe me, I've watched it more than once, that particular scene grates on me for some reason.
Sure.
So that would be my fail. It's just, that poor special effect in the midst of something where even when they didn't have a great budget, it was obvious that they put a lot of time and thought into their effects.
I understand. No, I get it. I get it. And it's just one of the things is, it's the first season. Do we have the money? Where do we need to put the money to? That might have been an after, here's where the majority of the budget and whatever we got left, we're going to kind of squeeze into these areas.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So what about you? What was your fail?
So my fail is when, he's back in the neighborhood and he's trying to come up with things. The choices that he makes on the things that he takes just drive me absolutely insane.
Okay, so you're going to have to elaborate for me. Is this before or after Morgan? Is this when he's just trying to figure himself out, or?
Yeah, it's with Morgan, and
okay.
They're kind of there, and the hesitation to really talk about what the world has become and who he is, and it's like, you say something or I'm going to shoot you, and it just that whole interaction. And then when he's kind of packing up and heading into Atlanta, it's those hindsight things where, God, why isn't he taking? Because we went back and we rewatched these episodes with our season 6 brains on, our season 1 brains on. I'm like, God, why would you not take every knife in the house? Why would you not do this and that? Because at this time, and it's a fail on Rick Grimes' part, not a fail of the series.
Right.
Because at the time, you're just thinking like, oh, well, cool, yeah, we'll get this all sorted out. The government will help us out, and we'll be good to go.
Right.
Without realizing the scope of what's going on. So he's leaving all of these handy-dandy things that definitely need to be used. It's just not being used. So that was kind of my fail of like, come on, man, what are we doing here?
I think he was totally thinking he was headed to some sort of government safe zone or safe camp.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, of course, probably even taking the guns was a big risk in his mind, I really, though, when you think about it, I mean, what are you going to do if you get to a government safe camp? Are those going to be confiscated?
Sure.
But of course, you need protection along the way. I mean, he's already seen enough zombies to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, boy. Still so good, though. So many good scenes. I mean, I just can't talk about the imagery enough from the first episode because I think they just did such a great job. But on to the epic fail. So what's your epic fail?
So my epic fail is something that plays out over 2 seasons, 3 seasons into 3 seasons, and it made me hate this character when Lori is just so open about her and Shane's relationship. That was the big epic fail. Because in my head, I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me, right?
It did happen pretty damn quick, didn't it?
It was pretty damn quick because from the time Rick's in the coma to there, it's only a couple of weeks.
So I was trying
Because
to figure out the time frame, and somewhere I came up with 6 weeks, and I think that was something based on something that Morgan said to Rick
okay,
about generator power. But even 6 weeks,
even 6 weeks after the whole world has collapsed and your husband's best friend slash partner is like, yep, he's dead. Which I can understand because he's like, okay, what are the odds that we're
sure,
ever going to be reunited again?
yeah.
So he's like, well, I'm gonna hit it. So like, why are you even a from his standpoint? You must not have been that best friends if you're
Amen,
already
man.
with the dude's wife. Two, Lori are really? Then you guys must not have been that good. Which they even said there was one point where they were referencing. I couldn't find the line, and maybe it's coming later about they weren't quite on good terms, anyways. Her
They,
and Rick.
they talked about it when Shane and Rick were in the squad car before they respond
Oh, was that when it
to.
was?
Yeah, and they pretty much talk about the difficulty that Rick and Lori are having in their lives and having in their marriage. And Lori even said something to Rick in front of Carl, like, sometimes I wish you weren't even here, or something like that. And he was really hurt by that.
So
So
do you think maybe then at some point, like towards the end there, that Rick was suspecting her and Shane? Do you think it's possible by how quickly she was willing to just deal with it in her own particular way?
I don't know that Rick suspected it, but I think that the chemistry probably was there between her and Shane to begin with.
Because the one thing that I'm referencing, and that was my epic fail, is where like she's out in the woods, and like he just comes up behind her, and then
I
they get it on
know.
out. It's like, really?
I know.
Like, no. Like this, just like what is going on? So that kind of makes me think like, gee, I wonder if they were kind of screwing around behind Rick's back.
It makes you wonder.
Not maybe a year, but what if they were screwing around, just started screwing around behind his back like a week before everything went south?
Right.
You know?
The other thing is, though, and I will just put this in for the actress. So she, of course, got a tremendous amount of flack from people who also did not like Laurie for the same reason. And she said, I'm fine with that because if I played her convincingly enough that you hate me,
Mm-hmm.
I did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I totally agree with that. I don't hate the person.
no, I
I hate
know.
the
Just hate the
character,
character.
and that's a good thing. If you have that much emotion about a character,
Yeah.
guess the TV show doesn't suck then, does it?
Nor does the actor or actress portraying the character.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, and this is jumping way ahead, but especially those scenes right toward the end, right before Laurie died, of them being on the bridge at the prison together and being close but not quite connected. I was
Hmm.
definitely led down that road that there was some hope that they might reconnect, you know?
Yeah, and I mean it kind of goes back to, they reference the trouble that they were in before the outbreak.
Right.
So the world wasn't a cozy place, and those emotions and feelings still carried over into real life. Like once it happened, it wasn't like, okay, all's forgiven, we're the greatest couple in the world. That
Right.
tells you that they really did have some deep, deep issues, and it was likely issues that Rick wasn't quite aware of or didn't realize the severity, but she was.
I definitely got the feeling, it's funny that you say that he was, I don't want to say the more clueless half of the couple, but maybe the more tolerant half, the more accepting half. He was not nearly as critical of the relationship as Lori was.
Well,
I
and
definitely got that feeling.
that's real life. I mean, I'm
Yeah. Oh
like,
no,
how many
absolutely.
times your husband come up to you and be like, "Why are you mad, babe? Why are you mad? What do you mean? Why am I mad? Are you kidding me right now?" Because I do the same stuff all the time. I'm like, babe, why are you mad? I don't understand what's going on.
And you've
Like,
seen
what?
that
Yeah,
meme, right? If she growls at you, just throw chocolate and back
yeah. It's
away.
just like, here, take this, take this.
So my epic fail also, I'm not really sure if it played out or not, so I'm really interested in your opinion. My epic fail is that Rick saw that helicopter and we never got any real satisfaction from that. Or did we? Was it the helicopter that crashed in, I want to say season two, maybe season three, and the governor ended up killing the pilot and his crew?
Yeah, I definitely think that was all still the same
You think it was the
military
same?
unit. Yeah,
Well, it
because
was,
that was a whole unit that they had. That was a whole group of people. I definitely think all that was related in some way, shape, or form. Which that helicopter is then what ultimately led the massive herd to the farm. Do you remember that?
I think I need to rewatch that. I mean, I think I kind of vaguely remember that,
So yeah, so
but
in season two, there's a part where when the herd is getting ready to come to the farm, they do like a 2 second recap of where this herd came from. And it showed
oh,
Rick seeing the helicopter, and then as it flew over, it seen a bunch of walkers look up because of the sound and the reverberations of the
uh-huh.
helicopter, and it flew in the direction towards the farm. So that's why they all started going that way.
Oh, that's totally cool. I'm gonna have to rewatch then
And then
because
that's kind of where I go back to. They set all these bits in there that play out over and over and long arching storylines that they have.
yeah,
Like, I wonder what their war room is what I'll call it will look like when they're really like doing this. They have to have this giant diagram where it shows this is a long story arc.
yeah.
And we can bring this back into a situation later on down the road where it'll fit in with the writing direction. And then as they kind of go, they kind of grab these like floating ideas that happened way back before and then kind of pull it into a situation and just kind of make it all connect.
They even do that just beautifully in the short term. And we'll have more chances to talk about that as we do work on the retrospective, but yeah, it's really nice. They do a nice job of tying things back. So, that was pretty much it for the epic fail or epic, comma, fail, comma, epic fail, but I kind of feel like there's a lot to say about this episode.
There sure is. And we can look right to Morgan and Dwayne. For me, that's a quick area of conversation. You meet this guy, and he had a pretty good understanding of what was going on. And, they just started talking like, hey, here's this, here's that. This is my son, Dwayne. And he's kind of looking, and I just kind of talked about this in the season finale of season 6 here,
Hmm.
of when the walkers were all coming inside of Alexandria. I referenced the beginning of, man, it made me feel seeing these nice, good neighborhoods overrun with walkers. And you see that when Morgan is talking with Rick, they're looking out the night windows into the street. And there's all those walkers, and one like bumps into the car and
I was
sets
just
off
gonna
the
say
car
the car
alarm.
alarm and yeah.
And then they all come and stuff. And then his wife keeps coming up the stairs and looking in the window. So now, here was something. It wasn't good enough to be on the epic fail because I understand why they had to do this. And there's another example of this in episode 2. Is I think Kirkman had addressed it on one of the things during the Talking Dead,
Uh-huh.
where they were doing things in season 1 that they didn't want their walkers to do.
Suggesting that perhaps they had some residual memory or some greater cognition than
Right. So
like
if
the
you
wife coming up the stairs and twisting the knob.
yes, that is
Yeah.
exactly one of the things I'm talking about because they can't open doors. But there she could. And it's like, oh, they still remember who they are because then the governor in season 3 had that, and his little minion, I don't remember what his name
Penny.
was.
Oh, I was thinking Milton. Milton.
Milton,
Yeah.
where he is doing the little scientific tests and he's playing the
Right.
same record in this, and there's still memory in there, and no, there's not. There's nothing. There's nothing in there. They are dead, and they're not who they were. So stop it.
Well, and I think
And
if you hang on to the idea that they have residual memory and that they still remember some segment of who they are, it makes it harder to get rid of them, makes it harder to put them down.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that they ultimately wound up getting away from is, it's too complex of a storyline, and it really just kind of goes in a direction we don't want to go. So you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about shaking the door handle, because now that's a whole nother layer of self-defense, because then where does it stop? If they
Right.
can shake a door handle, can they pick up a stick?
Or
Can they shoot a...
next episode, or bash in, take a rock and bash in a
Yes,
glass window,
yes.
glass wall.
So
Yeah.
we're on the same wavelengths, because that was going to be one of the things. It's like in that one shot, you see a walker with a rock up above his
Yeah.
head hitting it. And it's just like, now at what point does it stop? And I think that was one of the big axes that they took. Like, no, we can't do this, because they're just going to keep doing it.
Well, and it's my understanding that that was one of the truly creative differences with Frank Darabont. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I've heard.
Well, and for me, it's the old school zombies versus the new school zombies.
Right. So the zombie in Night of the Living Dead had the
Right.
rock and was trying to bash in the car window.
That's not. It kind of goes to me. There's multiple schools of thought here. It's not so much if you just have them the way they are now. They can move. They're a threat. They can do this. They can put their hands up, but they can't open a doorknob. They can't use tools, so to speak.
So, have you watched the documentary Dock of the Dead?
No.
It's if you have Amazon Prime, it's free. You can stream it. It's a good watch. There's a little interview with Greg Nicotero. Rob, warning you in advance, you're going to have to bleep me. Greg Nicotero says, "I fucking hate fast zombies."
Yes.
And it's just that whole idea, exactly, of different schools of thought and what is scarier, and what, for me, that slow burn, that zombie that might be hiding around the corner, disguised as the Moss zombie, for example, that's way scarier. Because you never know what's going to come and get you. You never know where the lurker is.
Right. And, you put that in with, then it becomes less about, and it's not just another zombie show. If you do that, it becomes more about the walkers than it does about the characters.
Right.
Because that makes it so many more variables on the walker side, where if you have them in a controlled environment like they are now, where they have rules on what they can and can't do in this universe, it allows it to become a TV series, not just a movie.
I agree, but with all of the good qualities of a movie. I mean, it's
Right.
the effects are so good, and it's generally very thoughtful, and so it's got all of the great qualities of a movie. But you get to watch it over and over again, and the plot changes just a little bit.
No, I definitely agree. I love it. I dig it.
So kind of, I was gonna say, kind of on the Morgan, not so much the Dwayne part of it, although I was disappointed to find out that Dwayne had been killed and how he'd been killed. But it's, for me, watching the person that Morgan has become, I liked Morgan so much in this first episode. He was such a great character, and I know that all of our characters have gone on character journeys and huge transitions, but Morgan is not Morgan anymore.
I agree.
And it's actually been kind of hard to watch that. I was really so looking forward to Lenny James being back on the show and Morgan being back with the group. And I just don't feel like it's the same. And we are probably going to see that play out in the second half of season 6.
Sure. And that's kind of the rise and fall of people. That's how real life goes. When you think you know somebody, you find out later, you're like, oh man, this is my new best friend. This is going to be awesome. And then 6 months later, like, God, this guy sucks. Same way, you see people for what they really are. And he was one person now, but now you see who he really is. And this is who he really is now. And it's just like, wow, this is not the same person that I fell in love with.
And maybe part of it is the loss of Dwayne, because he definitely had to be somebody different as a parent and as someone who was helping someone less equipped survive in the new world. He doesn't have to be that person anymore.
No, and he bears responsibility. The overarching storyline is he never killed his Walker wife in season one,
Absolutely. Yep.
and you never leave a Walker dead. That's kind of one of the recurring themes all the way through this.
Yeah,
Is you
we've
don't
talked
always
about
have to
that
kill them.
before. Yep.
Yeah, you do, because the same Walker that Carl didn't shoot in the mud is the same Walker that came back to kill Dale.
Yep.
The same Walker that he didn't kill on his front porch is the same Walker that came back, killed his kid, made him go insane, shot Rick or stabbed Rick,
Yep.
went crazy. Also, then let wolves go, almost got Rick killed. Now might be getting our new doctor lady killed because you can link every single action of his back to that one Walker.
And here you go with that gigantic arc that's taken 5.5 seasons to play out, but it's played out.
Yep, because he couldn't do that. It started this, chain of events where he lost his mind. He has developed himself into this present day monk, and he can't do this. And then it's just this keep recurring theme. Had he just killed his wife and came with Rick, none of this ever would have happened.
I agree.
Which sounds so morbid. If he would just kill his wife and go with Rick, the stranger he just met, this all would have been avoided. So,
but a better way to say it, and a truthful way to say it, would be if he had just put that biter down.
yes.
Right? Because he knew they were dead. I mean, I was watching it again, and Rick was coming out the morning after meeting Dwayne and meeting Morgan and kind of getting the story. And he's like, "Are you sure they're dead? Are you sure they're dead?" And Morgan reassured him that they were. So Morgan knew. It was just that he couldn't let go of his feelings. He couldn't let go of his past.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, one thing that I like is just how they were able to kind of put everything into perspective all in one thing. Because you see him at the hospital, you see them creepy fingers come out of those barricaded doors.
Which is also one of my favorite images.
Yeah,
of the whole series. Of the whole series.
It's just one of them things where it's like, oh my God, hey, these things are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes into him coming out of the hospital and this mountain of bodies and all those white sheets. And Rick's just waking up to this, like, what in the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And
coming up onto the military scene and more body bags.
Yeah, it just keeps kind of piling up. And then it shows, it flashes to the camp outside in the country, where they're all out by that water reservoir.
The quarry,
The quarry, they're kind of fishing and doing that. And then you go right back into downtown where he's trotting in on his horse, and then he turns the corner and there's just a giant horde, and he's like, oh crap, and he goes the other way and there's another giant horde.
And Morgan prophesied that. Remember, Morgan said they don't seem like a big threat if there's just one or two, but I'll tell you, if you get in a big group, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of how all of those things kind of played out in one episode. It showed so much range of solitude from when he woke up in the coma to crawling into the belly of a tank to avoid thousands of walkers.
And in keeping with that, just when you think about the landscape and the settings and the scenes that we were taken through, so we saw the hospital, we saw Rick's hometown, we saw the police station, we followed him along parts of his journey to Atlanta, we saw Atlanta. And I mean, just so many incredible different scenes. I mean, all of the military stuff that they had to put in place, all of the extras that they had to put in place. It was a high budget premiere. It was a really well done premiere.
Yeah, absolutely. It was huge. I absolutely loved it. One thing, did you ever watch any of the webisode minis that were out there?
I didn't, and I feel like I need to go back and watch those because my understanding is that they were the story of Bicycle Girl.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones out there. I think there was like 6 or so, but the one that sticks out to me it was very unique. it's exactly what I imagine it to be, but then it was also kind of like, that's cheesy, but because it kind of links it. So the one I'm talking about is it's a webisode with it's in a storage lot. This guy like comes up to the storage lot and he's like, "Hey, let me in," and this guy lets him in. And he's like, "Yeah, hey, there's these storage sheds. I found some with food in them and this and that and that. And hey, you seem like a pretty cool guy. Here's some food. Trust me. Hey, I'm going to turn these generators on, but I need you in this room to hit the switch at the same time while I am all the way over here to flip the switch at the same time. Okay?"
That sounds like a scary setup.
Yeah. And the guy's like, "Sure, you're pretty cool. I trust you. Let's do this." So he flips the switch. Well, there was a walker inside there as well. So he got the power on, but he was just expecting to get killed by the walker. So the guy got out. Well, then he finds out what the guy's actually been doing. And he had this girl that he had kidnapped, and he was keeping her in a storage room for his own devices, let's say. We'll skip the grit. Um, so they kind of kill the guy, and they get out, and they kind of go on their way, whatever. But the one thing that kind of linked it directly back into season 1 is that while the guy is going through some storage room, he finds one with clothes in it, and it's Rick and Lori's storage shed.
Oh,
It
how
has some
cool.
It has some of his old sheriff stuff in it, and then he finds like a wedding photo of them or something. And he like
Very
picks it up and
cool.
looks at it and then sets it back down and then grabs like a coat. So it's just kind of funny how, that's pretty cool. This is how I kind of imagine things to be. And then like you get that little drop of like, oh yeah, hey, here's how it all kind of ties in. Because then I'm like, that's kind of cheesy. Of all the storage sheds that he's actually in, he's in that one. Are you kidding me?
Well, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit next time, but of all of the campsites that Rick could run across, of all of the people who could radio Rick in the tank and call him a dumbass, really?
Yeah.
So, what else about this episode? I definitely have to say that even on the tail of that comment, I was a little bit shocked when Dale was like, "Here, boy, you come over here and you work with this radio because you're better at this," and then it turned out to be Shane. I mean, then I knew that Rick was ultimately going to find his family, but it was a little bit of a shocker to see Shane kind of come back into the picture.
Yeah, there's lots of little coincidences, or
Yeah.
how the radio frequency of a walkie-talkie is not the same radio
Right.
frequency of a different walkie-talkie. That's not how this works. So that stuff was always kind of fun. But and then, I don't want to be a downer on it, but because it's fun. It was a great episode. I absolutely enjoyed it. But I encourage people, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it with your season 6 brain and watch the pilot Days Gone By with your season 6 brain and just be like, holy cow.
And the other thing that I would encourage people to do is find somebody who's a newbie who hasn't seen it and haul that person into the world, because that is so much fun. I still
And
have a
also,
couple of people I need to initiate, so
yeah, you get them initiated, then you make them listen to the
there
podcast,
you
and then you
go.
make them rate and comment on iTunes.
There you go.
So if
So
everybody does that 10 times, we're going to be doing great.
So one more thing I want to say, character based, and then we probably should look at wrapping it up. But I really liked the way they introduced Shane. So Shane is somebody you love to hate, right?
Yeah.
But you knew who Shane was from the very beginning. They painted him so perfectly, and they did such a great job kind of the exposition of him as a person and him as a character. I really appreciated the way that John Bernthal played him. I appreciated the way that they portrayed him. They did an excellent job building up our rather negative expectations for that character.
Yeah, and the one thing that I liked is that by the end of that episode, all the comic book readers went, wait a minute, this isn't right.
Right.
There was that clear division
Yeah.
right off the get-go of, oh, this is definitely going to be different than the comic book.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going to be a frame-for-frame reshoot. This is different.
Now, there are some things that are directly ripped from the comic book. Like one of the scenes that I love, and you know I'm a horse owner, so of course I'm a total dork about the fact that Rick finds this horse. But
Sure.
where he gets up on the horse and he's headed into Atlanta and he's got his gun strapped to his back and he says, "Hey, now there, easy fella, I haven't done this in a long time," and the horse takes off. That
Yep.
is directly from the comic book. So I
Sure,
like
sure.
seeing frames like that. But I agree, and it's still interesting to be like, okay, is this going to follow the comic book or not?
No, it was great. Let's see. We covered the Lori stuff.
Did you have any bold predictions, or did you have any things that you expected to have happen that you said, hey, this is going to happen, that didn't come true from the first episode?
No,
I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
I don't think so. Just because, when I did watch this, it was really just absorbing what was happening
Hmm.
because it was very different. And it was just that uniqueness that it brought that I just absolutely connected with. The way they, like I said, the way they presented everything, the way they covered everything, I just went, wow, this is going to be different.
It was just kind of submerging yourself into the experience.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
that's the
know,
way it was for me too.
all right, so let's do this question here and let's open this up to the Facebook group.
Okay.
It's poll time. Do you prefer the color or the black and white? Because they reshot everything, and on the DVD you can watch the black and white version, all that good stuff. So, Facebook group, let us know. Do you prefer color or black and white? And just do a one or two sentences why.
Oh man, now I feel like a lame host because I haven't watched it in black and white. So you're telling
Really?
me that I have to bring more DVDs into my house, aren't you?
Yeah. No. Well, so I'm kind of the I don't care. It was cool to watch it in black and white once, but ultimately it doesn't make it a whole lot better for me. I like the novelty of black and white.
Hmm.
I don't like always black and white. So they did the whole season one in black and white because the pilot was done in black and white. It had such good reviews. They did the
Hmm.
whole season in black and white. I like the pilot in black and white. I don't like the season in black and white.
Interesting. I'm definitely gonna have to go back and take a
Yeah,
look.
it's fun. It adds a little bit of layer of eeriness to it, used as a novelty. To me,
Hmm.
that's just my opinion. Other than that, I got HD color 4K for a reason. Let's do it.
So I want to bring up tribute zombies because I know that Greg Nicotero has since become very well known for his tribute zombies, and he'll often talk after an episode about who the tribute was and what he was trying to do with
Sure.
it. So another thing I have to confess to our listeners is that I was really a vampire girl before this whole Walking Dead thing happened. So I'm kind of catching up on my zombie lore. And I went back and I watched Dawn of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I ended up with the remake. I don't know how I did. I was just on Amazon. So, but the first zombie that you see in Dawn of the Dead, at least on the remake, is the daughter of the guy who is the first death in Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
And she looks so much like the little girl that Addie Miller played at the gas station that
Yep.
I found myself wondering if that was not, in fact, Greg Nicotero's first tribute zombie. So if anybody's got an opinion about that or has some knowledge about that, I'd love to hear feedback about that.
Well, that's good because it kind of was in my brain when I was talking through on things to think of, but I thought of other stuff. Was that opening scene because in that, like, I think there's something emotionally impactful of opening with a cute little girl who wants to kill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's just one of them emotional sucker punches like, oh, this is real.
That's completely why I was hooked because it was just so stunning to have that happen. And I was watching it with my season 6 brain and I was thinking, okay, by this time Rick has seen a few walkers. He's seen Bicycle Girl. He has killed Leon Bassett, the deputy that used to work with him. He's put him down. He's seen the zombies milling in the streets the night that he spent with Morgan and Dwayne. So he's got some experience, but he still doesn't have that experience of seeing a child. And he still doesn't have that experience of having put a child down. So he's got, I think the actor played it so well because he's got that really great mix of, I have to do this, but this is completely horrifying.
Sure. No, it's great. I love it, and it really just speaks volumes about their tributes, and we can get into those as we go along, because Nicotero is just one of them buffs, man, where he digs it, and it goes way back in his bloodline, and he does a lot of it. He does a lot of throwbacks, and
he's so cool.
A lot of hat tips like that. And that's why his zombies will always be slow.
Yep.
They will always be, because it's not so much about the zombies, it's about the journey. And that's really how Hitchcock did his stuff. It wasn't always about, if you look at old Hitchcock films, there's typically, not always, typically some kind of item or something, and that something never gets answered at the end of the show. Because it wasn't really about that something, it was about the journey. And that's really The Walking Dead. It's not about the zombies and how they can do X, Y, or Z.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about how life is being lived over those times to get there. That's what it's really about.
Absolutely. And it's how people change and how people interact and what society has become, or what we're trying to do when we're trying to rebuild.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
Take that, listeners. You didn't think you were going to get some philosophical jargon to be scrambling around in your brain right now.
So do you have anything else you want to say about the pilot? I mean,
no,
we could go on all night.
Yeah.
But
I like these quick episodes. We can call them quick hit retrospectives, but
there
it really
go.
wasn't that quick because we're only about, 5 minutes short of a regular episode for us. So there's lots to talk about. Let's get the discussion going again. Everybody relive this. Get out there. You don't have to go back and rewatch it. Just go off of your memory bank if you don't want to. Let us know. Don't forget to jump out there, take part in the poll.
Yep.
That'll be up there. Do you prefer color or black and white? And just give us 1 or 2 sentences on why.
I will make sure that I put that up on Facebook after I finish uploading this episode for Rob. And the other thing that I just want to remind people, please start talking about what you thought about season 1, episode 2, because we want to hear from you and we'd like to include it in the next podcast.
Yep. Think ahead, everybody. So go ahead, plan now, and talk about episode 2. And we'll pick a few that we love in the Facebook group or in the email. You can always shoot us out at the email.
Yep.
And hook us up and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up from the cold, frozen, slow-moving zombie realm of the North.
You'll be safe up there.
At least until spring.
Yep, you bet. All right. Well, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to reach out and take it one dead day at a time.
Right on. Have a good one, everybody.